Charred fortresses are intimidating strongholds found in the Ashlands. Inhabited by powerful, spooky, scary skeletons, they can also contain some of the best loot in the game, like flametal ore used to craft Ashlands armor sets and weapons. They also have a chance to contain 3 gems, Iolite, Jade, and Bloodstone, used to craft the OP Ashlands staffs, as well as upgrade your new weapons to even more powerful elemental versions. In this guide, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to easily siege a Charred fortress, solo or with friends, and get all that awesome loot hidden within it. Let's go! First off, I want to start by saying this guide will be for players that are already slightly established in the Ashlands, like having at least one base in the biome. So if you aren't already established in the Ashlands, I suggest starting with my easy Ashland survival guide, which will cover some of the strats we use in this video, but in more detail. It's almost kind of a spiritual part 2 to that video. Alright, let's go over all the gear and supplies you'll need for this adventure, to make defeating a fortress as easy as possible. As far as gear, this strat is going to use a magic build because of the powerful ranged attacks and just overall ease of use. And what I mean by that is, you don't have to worry about the 5 Ds of melee combat that Patches O'Houlihan taught us. Dodge, duck, dive, and dodge. So bring your full Itra Weave set, Feather Cape as well, the Staff of Ember, Staff of Frost, and Staff of Protection. As for consumables, I suggest 2 Iter foods and 1 fat HP food. And for meads, fire resistance for, well, all the fire, lingering stamina so you don't run out of stamina at a less than ideal time, and of course some meads for health and Iter regeneration. That's it for gear, food, and potions. Now let's get into other supplies. We are going to need 1 stack of wood for some crafting tables, 3 to 4 stacks of stone, a hoe to use the stone to raise the ground into a patented oh shit pillar, supplies for at least 2 portals that we will need later, so it'll be beneficial to pre-name a blank portal at your base to something like Fort 1 or Ash 3, etc. So you have a portal to connect to when the time comes. These numbers aren't exact. If you can afford to bring more stone or more wood, feel free. Also, if you can spare it, bring the ingredients for even more portals, because that will help you mitigate any death runs that might arise by creating more checkpoint bases. All these supplies are going to be too heavy to carry all at once, so stage them in a chest at your current closest base to a fortress in the Ashlands, so we have it when we need it. For now, just bring with you your magic gear, of course, a hoe, food, potions, and supplies for 1 portal, 20 wood, and fill the rest of your inventory with stone. We are going to need a few supplies later in the video, but I'll go over them when the time comes. For now, this is all you'll need. Okay, time to find a Charred fortress. Luckily, they are pretty easy to find because they have a fairly predictable spawning pattern. They normally generate inland on the larger Ashlands islands. And oh, they have a giant green spotlight shining out of them that you literally can't miss, almost calling out to you. Loot me, loot me. Before you even think about sieging the Charred fortress you just found, I suggest making what I call a checkpoint base, near the fortress but not too close. These are just backup plan bases, used in case you die at the fort, so you don't have too far of a walk of shame, I mean death run. So survey the area, looking for structures that make for a good checkpoint base. Morgan caves, also known as putrid holes. The Morgans do be having some leaky holes, but these cave entrances work really well for this because you can seal the front of the cave with a stone wall, leaving a small gap at the top to jump over. Then put a portal inside just before the cave's entrance. Ruins and sulfur arches can make for okay checkpoint bases too, but they are very destructible, so it's not advised, but can work in a pinch. Just make sure to use a tall ruin so the creatures can't reach you, same with the sulfur arch. Only use the bigger ones, because the smaller ones are too easily destroyed by creatures in the Ashlands. The reason the taller structures work better is because at a certain height, creatures just stop attacking you and just sit there and stare at you like, what up, bro? And then lose interest and wander off to ruin somebody else's day. Now that we have our checkpoint base set up, we can get closer to the fortress, but not too close yet. For the next step, we are going to use magic to clear out most of the fortress's creatures safely at a long-range distance, like a sniper that uses magic. Pew pew! To do this, you will need to find a safe elevated platform of some sort, similar to the checkpoint base. Either a nearby sulfur arch, or a very high ruin again. I would suggest not using the same structure you made your checkpoint base in, because it might get really hot here with creatures, and you don't want to risk your portal getting destroyed. but it can work in certain situations, like when you have a very large tall ruin next to a fortress. It can work. If there's no elevated structure nearby, make your own using the stone and hoe you brought to build a stone pillar, about 15 to 20 meters away from the fortress, so you can hit the creatures but they can't hit you. Start by lobbing fireballs at the 2 spawners located in the fortress. Just line up your crosshair with the spawner and raise it up a bit to account for fireball drop, and keep shooting until you see the spawner explode. Once destroyed, these stop any more creatures from spawning. Next, destroy the turret guns known as skugs, located on the corners of the fortress's walls. There's normally 2 to 4 of these, and normally only take 2 well-placed fireballs to destroy, and they drop an item used to craft catapults, but I'm getting off topic. Next, kill the charred warlocks. Normally there's about 2 to 3 warlocks left after killing the spawner. These guys are a special variant of the charred that's only found in fortresses and mysterious locations. And these guys are very powerful because they will keep spawning a green version of the charred twitchers and throw giant green fireballs at you that do a ton of damage. Ideally, our platform is out of range of any warlocks, but if they do manage to land a green fireball on your platform, evacuate immediately because these green fireballs hit like a truck. And sometimes these warlocks escape the bounds of the fortress by falling off the wall, and they are a real pain if that happens. Focus that escaped warlock. And lastly, finish off any remaining charred. Once you believe the fortress to be mostly clear, move up to the fortress wall and create another stone pillar, close enough so that you can use it to jump into the fortress, but not close enough so any remaining creatures can melee attack you. The reason we don't start with this pillar is the creatures will fuck your shit right up if you're this close to them before clearing the fortress out a bit. Thanks, Fire Spark. Now, jump into the fortress and make sure it's fully cleared out, and maybe take a peek into the chest to see what kind of awesome loot is in store for you. But wait, we aren't done yet. Now that you know the fortress is safe, run back to your checkpoint base and grab the ingredients for a portal and a crafting table, then head back to the fortress. You can place the crafting table and portal under the lip of the inner doorways, like this, to protect them from firestorms. I've never had a portal burn up under these doorways, but that doesn't mean it can't happen, so just be careful. Now it's time to jump through the portal and go back to your main base and get the rest of the supplies I alluded to earlier. First, we need the ingredients for a stone portal, so 10 Greydwarf Eyes, 30 Growlston, and 2 Molten Cores. You normally find enough of these molten cores to make a portal within the fortress, but they can also be found in Morgan's putrid holes we talked about earlier. Secondly, bring the supplies for the Battering Ram to break down the door of the fortress center tower, which hides even more loot inside. The Battering Ram requires 20 ashwood, 2 Surtling cores, and 10 flametal bars. Hopefully you got enough flametal from this fortress to make your Battering Ram, but if you didn't, simply mine some of the flametal off the Lava-iathins? Why, Iron Gate, why? Scattered across the Ashlands. It only requires the black metal pickaxe to mine. You'll also need a few pieces of wood to fuel the Battering Ram. About 5 should be more than enough. And thirdly, bring the materials to craft a stone cutting table, as the stone portal requires one nearby to be able to build it. Side note, if you already have extra materials for a stone portal, just use that as your first portal in the fortress and skip the whole wood portal step. You will need a second stone portal at your base to get all these supplies back and forth from the fortress. Once you're back at the fortress, craft the stone cutter, then your stone portal, and destroy your old wood portal. Now build the Battering Ram facing the tower at the center of the fortress, then fuel it up in the back here, like this. And then use your Battering Ram similar to a cart, by standing in the middle here to pick up the Battering Ram, then for lack of a better term, ram it into the tower, and you'll see the arms of the Battering Ram smash down the walls of the fortress tower with massive damage. A quick side note, you can take this Battering Ram out to the plains and use it to easily destroy the stone pillars found there. It can also be used to mine ore nodes found throughout the game. But back to the fortress. Just blast a hole big enough so you can access the inside of the tower, and inside you'll find a few molten cores, a chest that can contain gems and flametal, among other useful items. And lastly, you can find a bell fragment encased in an altar at the very center. Break the altar to obtain bell fragments. 9 of these fragments are used to craft a bell, and you will need 3 bells to summon the boss of the Ashlands, known as Father. Breaking the altar also stops the green spotlight coming out of the fortress, so if you want that light to stay for aesthetic reasons, then just leave the altar intact. Once conquered, these fortresses make for one of the best Ashlands bases, as the walls are indestructible by creatures and you with the exception of using the Battering Ram. You can even set up an Askfin popper at one of these fortresses, so you can have an army of Askfins guarding the perimeter of your new fortress base. For a guide on that, again, check out my Easy Ashlands Survival Guide. It's pretty much part 1 to this video's part 2. Once you've conquered a few fortresses and crafted some of the new gear, I suggest using the Ashland staves to make sieging fortresses even easier. By summoning trolls with the troll staff on the inside of the fortress and using the Staff of the Wild to spam vines on the inside as well to help your troll clear the fortress, and eventually the vines will even clean up your troll too, making it safe for you to enter the fortress. A super cheesy glitch I found is if you are standing on the ground level outside the fortress and try to summon a troll into the fortress wall, it can actually get stuck in the wall, causing all the creatures to focus it, but not actually being able to attack the troll, giving you time to clear the Charred using vines with ease while they are distracted by the troll. Thank you so much for watching. If the guide helped you out at all, maybe leave a like. And if you want to see more game guides like this, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. Have a wonderful day. Peace.